Welcome back to another episode of Media Diet, the show where we talk movies, television, music, games, and all things media we've been consuming lately. But today we take a deep dive into a timely and monumentally memorable season that is Stranger Things Season 4. But does this season deserve all of the praise it's getting? My name is Kevin, and joined alongside me today is
Caleb McConnon,
Alan Ember,
Tim Hill.
Before we get into our thoughts and opinions on this season, let's kind of go around the table here and give our take on the show in its entirety and how we were feeling leading up to Season 4, as well as what hooked you to the show. Caleb, I'll start with you, man.
Yeah, I mean, as a whole, very great show, I think. Season 2 was wasn't a huge fan. Season 3 got me back into it, and so I was very excited for Season 4. I think Season 4 is probably the best season yet, I would argue. It could be recency bias, but I think this was the best season, story-wise, and just how they're tying everything together. I love it. I just got into it because of, I don't know, just the sci-fi-ness of it and the nostalgia, the 80s, 70s, whenever it takes place. I just love that vibe, and I think it was just really well done. But yeah, I mean, big fan of Season 4.
I like it. It's a good season, and it's like this. I feel like this has definitely been the busiest season. Like every episode, there's like 6 different things going on, and you're like, where are we going here?
I mean, there's like 4 storylines going on right now.
Yeah, and so in that aspect, I think it's the most ambitious.
Yeah,
definitely, and it's definitely the more adult, quote unquote, one, like which they've been moving up since Season 1. It started like when they were younger, and then going like Season 3 really made a switch into like, oh, okay, this is like an adult show, not like could be teen show. So I think for that purpose of it, like so much going on, it's awesome. But I've said to you guys earlier was just the kind of, I felt like compared to other seasons, the cohesiveness of like the look of it was different. And that's my only real complaint. Story-wise, it's probably the best just because everything from all 4 seasons are coming together, not just Season 4. So that's really cool. So yeah, I still think Season 3 is probably my favorite right now.
What drew you to the show? Like what did you gravitate towards? What gripped you initially to be like, this show's great?
The look, definitely.
Yeah.
100%. Like Caleb was saying, 80s and the way it looked. And I mean every episode you want to watch the next. So those 3 things, yeah, 100%.
Yeah, I think the biggest thing for me was like, growing up, one of my favorite movies and still is my favorite movies is The Goonies. And there's not, there's been a lot of, I guess like TV shows or movies that have tried to capture that. And I feel like this is probably one of the strongest shows that captures that same feeling that I got from watching The Goonies. It's just like bunch of friends, bunch of, like younger kids, growing up, going through life together. And then they have like this just big grand adventure each season. And so I just really like the look and feel of it. And it just reminds me of like kind of like that older Spielberg era sort of thing, and creating that sort of like mystery and chaos.
Yeah, I definitely agree with that. For me, like you, I'm a huge Goonies fan. Grew up loving those Steven Spielberg-esque adventures and just like the nostalgia with it. And I'm also a huge horror fan. And so the elements of horror and sci-fi and fantasy, along with like a coming-of-age story, just immediately gripped me and sold me. And it's just one of the most fantastic, flawless shows that I have seen in a long time. Saying that, Season 1, I think, has so much charm, has so much heart, has so many endearing characters, and that's also what just gripped me. And Season 2, I think, got a little bloated, got a little heavy-handed, and maybe a little too repetitive. But that happens. I still thought it was a fantastic season. Season 3 is where it kind of lost me a little bit, where it felt more of the same, but just bigger and bigger. And then Season 4 reeled me back in a really incredible pleasant way that I was not expecting. And so the show in its entirety is up there, probably now in my top 3 shows of all time, right next to Breaking Bad and The Office. I think Breaking Bad, The Office, Stranger Things.
Yeah.
I think that's the top 3 right now, just because of how well done this newest season is, and that's just a testament to the Duffer Brothers and everybody who had a hand in that.
I can never just make a list of like my top things, because like I would have to like put them in subsections by genre and stuff like that, just because we're in a world now where there's so many TV shows that are coming out, and there's a lot of really good ones that are coming out, that I can never just be like, yeah, my all-time top 3 are going to be these shows. Like I have to look at it from just like a bunch of different perspectives of like, what mood am I in? What am I kind of like into during that time whenever I'm watching these shows and all that sort of stuff. But I would say this is probably, it's one of my top shows for sure in the sci-fi genre.
Such a love letter to the 80s. Well, it's been 6 months since the Battle of Starcourt, which brought terror and destruction to Hawkins. Struggling with the aftermath, our group of friends are separated for the first time, and navigating the complexities of high school hasn't made things easier. In this most vulnerable time, a new and horrifying supernatural threat surfaces, presenting a gruesome mystery that, if solved, might finally put an end to the horrors of the Upside Down. Now, I want to go ahead and just preface this by saying we are going to go spoiler-free with this. I want to just go around the table and get your brief initial thoughts on this newest season, and then we'll go from there. So I'm going to start with Alan on this one.
But no spoilers?
No spoilers.
Like I kind of said in the
That's gonna be
beginning,
tough.
no
It was just,
spoilers,
like,
initial thoughts.
We'll just edit it out. if
A
you say
lot
it.
is happening. Just the whole time you're confused is how. Like I kind of said in the beginning, it was just like
go together.
a lot is
and
happening.
they're gonna wrap this
and
up.
you're just the whole time you're confused
so
is how any of
initially,
this is gonna
It was
go together.
and they're gonna wrap
like
this
it.
up.
I like it a lot.
Initially,
I don't
it
know.
was.
I try to
I
like
like
not
it.
use
I
spoilers.
like it a lot.
3 is
Overall-
my favorite, but
Overall,
like I said, I still think
fantastic for
season
its own
3 is my
reasons.
favorite, but
because
overall
it's
it is
to me, it's like
fantastic
Stranger
for
Things,
its
but
own
totally
reasons.
different
Yeah.
than the other 3.
Because
And
it's to me it's like it's
I don't
Stranger
know.
Things, but
That's
it's totally different.
I don't
than
know
the
how
other
to
3.
go into
Yeah,
more
I don't know.
detail
That-
without
I don't know how to go into
saying
more
anything.
detail without
It's tough.
saying
Tim,
anything else.
Tim, what are your thoughts, spoiler-free thoughts on Stranger Things Season 4, Volume 1?
I think it's fantastic. I think we are kind of like getting back into a lot of the questions that I had from season 1. There was a lot of things that I was wondering in season 1 just about the world building. Where did all of these things come from? And I think that season 4 is finally giving me those answers, rather than, season 2 and 3 was just being like, here's the Upside Down, these things are happening or whatever, but you're not really going to have much backstory of like why these things are happening and where these things, are stemming from and all that sort of stuff. So I think season 4 is just hitting the marks for me as a whole, on a completely different level than what 2 and 3 have done for me. And there's just some wild things that happen in there that just have me like super pumped for the last 2 episodes. And I also think that season 4 and them making all of the episodes longer to actually give me a complete story and giving me a lot of closure on things was the best move that, was the best call. Like, because I think the shortest episode is like an hour long, but then there's a bunch of them that are hour 20. Episode 7 is like an hour and 40 minutes.
Mm-hmm.
Like, that was absolutely necessary with all the moving pieces that are going on.
Literally 7 different movies.
Yeah. I mean, I think this season definitely the darkest. I feel like it goes, like kind of what we're saying. It's more adult, I feel like. We can see these kids growing up. But yeah, it's dark, suspenseful. It's definitely more of a horror.
Yeah.
There was like 1 or 2 times I actually jumped. I was like, which was more of like sound design stuff, I think, than anything.
Yeah, they were very heavy on the sound
Yeah,
design.
they loved their match cuts and like sound match cuts.
They did.
With the sound with those, and just startle you a lot. I mean the monster this season I think is the most, probably one of the more intriguing ones, because I'm like, I have no idea how they're gonna defeat this thing. And it seems like there's, I guess without spoilers, it seems like there's a lot of like deeper meaning to it as well, with like it seems like mental health stuff kind of, and like
Mhm.
trauma. It's very interesting, and I'm curious to see like kind of where it's gonna wrap up. But yeah, I mean, I think the acting is all around some of the best they've done. I have opinions on a few characters.
Yeah.
I think as they've aged, they have not grown in their talent as well, which is unfortunate. But yeah, I mean, I think there's some technical stuff as well that we'll probably get into of like they could have done a little better here, but also like some places they just blew it out of the water. And yeah, I think just all around, it's a very well done season. I'm every episode I'm like, dang, I need to watch the next one. But it's like, do I have that hour in my day? I'm gonna make it.
It's a great last season.
Yeah.
Like from the monster actually having like, it's not just like a monster. I'll leave it
Mhm.
at that.
Yeah.
But it's like, it's more rounded.
Yeah. For me, as you can probably hear, and as everyone in this room is seeing, I cannot gush about this season enough. And I am not someone that is easily persuaded by like the hype for movies or shows, or if someone like, this is so good, this is great, you got to watch this. Usually I'm left pretty disappointed by that. And so I'm a tough person to please when it comes to anything. But you know, and I feel like a lot of things nowadays, a lot of movies and shows, and maybe this is just the era that we're in, or maybe it's just I'm one of those, they don't make them like they used to anymore, old geezers. But I don't know. I think the structure for cinema and film feels very sterile, and it feels very manufactured and kind of soulless in a way. And touching back on season 2 and season 3, they started to feel somewhat like that, where they weren't recapturing the charm and like the heart of what made season 1 so great. And that's where I kind of started to get a little lukewarm on the season. And then season 4, it just fucking rocked me. It was there were like you guys said, there was so many layers to it, so cinematic. The way they focused on the larger focus on horror, the balance of cinematic scale and immersive storytelling, I thought was incredible.
Yeah, I think with I generally agree with what you're saying. Like all of these streaming services are not necessarily looking at these, as far as things being stale. A lot of people are just trying to pump out content and stuff like that. And I feel I liked all of the seasons. I don't know if I would say that one was stronger than the other, although I feel like 4 is just kind of like the swan song, so to say. But it just feels like it's a passion project, right? And like that's whenever you can really see that people put time and effort into, whether it be like continuity, look, feel, like and all that sort of thing. So there's certain shows that come along, and I think that this is going to be one of those that people will talk about for a very long time, because you can tell that the creators are very passionate about this story and have put a lot of time into just creating an entire world around it. And you don't see that a lot with there's a lot of other shows that have like multiple seasons and stuff like that, and people watch it, but they just don't consume it in the same way. And I feel like Stranger Things just hits a mark, like the way that I consumed like either Breaking Bad or Boardwalk Empire and a few other shows that really stood out to me. Like this one's going to be with me for a very long time.
Definitely. So if you're listening, if you have not watched any of Stranger Things, or if you have not seen season 4 yet, hopefully this gets you off the fence, and you can hear that collectively. I think we all can give it 2 thumbs up. It's just incredibly passionately well made. Saying that, I think we need to go ahead and just open up the floor to spoiler talk, because there is a lot to dive into. There's a lot to say. And so I guess I just want to start. I don't even know where to start, because there's so much to talk about with this season, how it brings everything full circle, and new characters, new elements, new direction, new tone. What were some things that really worked for you this season? And I'll start with you, Alan.
I mean, I just love thus far how there's really no like plot holes. Yeah, I mean, we haven't seen the last 2 episodes, but usually the shows that have like 3 different storylines, 4 different storylines, there's bound to be something that's left out where you're like, well, that doesn't make any sense. This show is dumb. There's not really, like you said,
their attention to detail,
Yeah.
they're not really leaving anything out. Just based on everything else, I feel like they're gonna wrap it up nicely. I also think there's so many characters in this show, like so many, and they all work together somehow. Like they're all the different personalities. Not all of them are the same. They're all very different, and they're consistently different throughout all 4 seasons, even the ones that are not there anymore. So that definitely works, and it's really cool to see. And I can't even imagine writing it. I can't even imagine writing all that dialogue. I can't imagine weaving all these stories together. It is ludicrous. The first time when Chrissy levitated and just got absolutely wrecked,
That was
I was like, oh wow, we're here, and this is season 4.
so unexpected. Like,
Yeah,
oh, this
I
could
was
be
like,
dark.
wow, yeah. I think I texted Caleb. I was like, this is dark.
But yeah, I mean, with what Alan was talking about, just that first scene, it's like, or not the first death.
Yeah.
I feel like it immediately introduces like the tension of like, you still have the upside down and it exists, but people still don't believe that it exists. And now this dude's like screwed because no one's going to believe him.
Yeah.
And I thought that was
you're
really
like,
cool.
oh no. I also think it ties, not ties, but this season made me think of It chapter, I don't know if it was chapter 1 or chapter 2, the movie It.
A little bit. I think chapter 1, a little bit of both.
When he's like, it's all about being in their mind, past trauma, and in a house and stuff. And so I was like, oh, this is kind of similar to that, but which I like. I mean, I loved that movie. But yeah, that first death, that was definitely something I'll take away and won't forget. And that was all those, just the way they die is
Well,
in
yeah,
general.
it just really set the tone, and they were just like, this is where we're going with it. And so like, there was always kind of I don't want to say like kitty factors to the other one, but like it was way more like subdued, even with like the mind flare and stuff like that when that came around, and fully in season 3. It just wasn't as terrifying as what this was. And so like they really set the tone, being like and the fact that they didn't pull the camera away too, like you saw like things being snapped and like distorted and stuff like that. I was just like, oh shit, like was not expecting to see this fully happen, because it still has a just like a TV 14 rating, right? It doesn't even have a TV
really?
rating. So like I feel like they really skated on the line there of like what you can actually show before you need to cut away.
Right. I mean, literally the first scene, or the first or second scene of the first episode, it's like, oh, there's dead children on my screen right now. I was a little shocked.
But like, did anybody think in that first scenes that 11 actually killed all those kids?
No, but there was like a small % chance. I was like, maybe.
I think it was possible. I think it was possible because, like, in the earlier seasons, right, she couldn't control like her powers like that well, right? So it's like if she just got like really angry, then something like that could happen, which would, it would explain really like the trauma that she deals with. So I think like whenever I first saw it, I was just like, this is totally plausible. Like, do I believe that it actually happened? Maybe not, but it was one of those things that like, if it did, like that explains for her being the way that she is in a lot of ways. So
I think the reason why I didn't was because in all previous seasons we never saw her kill somebody and it looked like that, because it looked like the dismembered.
Sure,
whatever.
like snap, like something like she snapped their neck or she
like
broke someone's
all
arm.
their arms were like like Vecna did it.
It's usually like they hit a wall.
Yeah, and they fall. Yeah, and they're dead.
Yeah.
But
Yeah, I think I thought she did just because the scene when they were like bullying her basically when they came in and she was in there, and like the concussion thing. But then when she's in that like one of the last scenes where the dude pulls her, pulls her across the ground, and she gets all the blood because of like sliding across it. That's where like, so that's where that came from.
Yeah,
because I feel like that was one of the biggest things. I was like, oh, she did this.
Yeah, I kept thinking of going back to season 1, and I can't remember how she escapes from Hawkins' lab, because we do see her in the gown, and I think it is clean. There's no blood on it. And so I was trying to remember, because they kind of retconned it in a way.
Right, because wasn't there like nurses that helped and stuff like that? Or am I thinking something of like complete?
I cannot remember.
I can't remember it. Yeah,
I just
Go back
remember
and watch
her.
episode 1.
I remember the Demogorgon in the lab and is chasing after people. And then I just remember 11 showing up at the burger joint and befriending, I think, Benny's Burgers. And she has like curly fries and burgers, but I don't remember how she got there. I don't remember how she got out.
Yeah.
I
don't think it shows. I think it literally just shows her running through the woods. I think. I could be wrong, though.
Caleb, what were some things that really worked for you this season?
Ooh.
Oh, and sound design. Sound design works.
The sound design is always
oh,
killer.
yeah.
It's always killer for.
There was
for
like
Stranger
one
Things.
scene I was like, that was very unnecessary.
Yeah.
Oh, when it was I remember because I watched it yesterday. The scene where after Steve gets like eaten up by the little bats.
Oh yeah.
Nancy's wrapping
Yes,
this
I was
thing
thinking
around
that.
him, and it like
Yes.
has this
It-
squishy noise. I'm like,
That
it
would
sounds
not
like he's a dead
happen.
body already, and it was
Yeah.
just like so unnecessarily gross.
Yeah, I thought the exact same thing. Yeah.
But no, I thought the sound design was really good this season. I thought poop on these kids.
Oh gosh.
Yeah, the story was just incredible. I think I liked a lot of the nods towards stuff in earlier seasons, like Barb just randomly coming back.
That was
I
nice.
Like, oh,
That was a
hey.
nice surprise, yeah.
We didn't forget about her. I won't even get into that. I thought the old characters, some of them really grew in their acting. I think Max was like, she was probably my favorite this season. She
Yeah.
killed it. And what's his face? Her boyfriend, Caleb
Lucas.
Lucas.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They did great.
I thought both of them were really good this season. Yeah, I think some of them are just like not keeping up with their acting skills. I mean, I don't want to poop on these kids because they're literally kids. But Will, I've never thought he was a good actor, and I think this season it was especially.
There's just the three that are annoying that nobody likes, which is Will,
Yeah.
Mike, and 11.
11? No,
Oh,
dude,
but
I
you
think
like
she's a great actress.
Corinne hates 11.
I can't.
I don't
compare.
understand why. I
Well,
think she's really good.
We'll get into the things that did not work for us
Yeah.
this season, but I disagree on Noah Schnapp's
Really?
Will's acting. I think,
It's just
yeah,
awkward.
I think he is awkward this season, but I think a lot of that has to do with the writing. I think, especially in season 2, whenever he's possessed there at the end and he's just really freaking out, I thought I'm like, this kid is great. Like I've always thought he's a good actor.
Yeah.
And I feel bad for his character because he's been through so much stuff that he's just this sweet little schoolboy now where he's just kind of in love with Mike and they don't really know. He's painting him pictures and I feel like he needs to be more like, I don't know, just traumatized and
I feel like-
stressed. And it's just, that's a little off for me.
Yeah.
But I do wish that they would give him more stuff to work with. Granted, this cast is huge, and that's so hard to pull off and do. But I do hear what you're saying.
I think the one thing that's on my mind right now, just because I watched the last episode last night, is the full circle moment of what happened with 11 and where she came from. Because in the beginning, like first episode, she's escaping the lab. You don't really know why.
Mm-hmm.
And I never really questioned it either. It was like you kind of got hints of like, oh, this dude just sucked, like Papa, whatever. He was like, oh, he must have like done something, and so she left. But now you kind of see like what really happened and why she dipped out. That was pretty wild to me. I was like, oh, that's great. Which it was a little confusing throughout the season because it showed her as older, but it was while she was younger.
Yeah.
And it would kind of go back and forth. Which I found out she had a stunt double that like, and then what they did was she had a double and they deep faked her face onto her.
I was like, oh, that girl's CGI.
Yeah, it was wild. So that was like a huge thing that I was just blown away by. Other takeaway, I think just like this, I'm very curious to see what they're going to do with this monster, which we now know is 1, the number of the children, 1.
He's many things.
Yeah, the full like from the story of like you see what happened and how this like sort of the origins of this monster, and then you find out like, hey, you've already seen the monster before. It's this kid, by the way.
Yeah.
And so that kind of blew me away. And I think just like the storylines that are going on are just really interesting as well. We kind of see just like with the Russia stuff with Mike and that little crew as they're trying to find Susie to like save them, but they have no idea what's going on, which was a little confusing because you don't show them at all in the last episode, and I thought they were gonna do something with that storyline, but they don't.
I mean, there's still 2 more episodes that are
Yeah.
supposedly going to be close to 2 hours long each.
Yeah.
So like, there's still a lot of development.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
believe episode 8 is an hour and a half, and episode 9, the season 4 finale, is 2.5 hours.
Oh,
It's
yeah.
insane.
I love it.
But I feel like they did kind of tie up at least some loose ends for now, and I thought they were gonna do something with that, but they didn't. So I'm a little confused on where they're gonna go with those. I guess 4 characters with the brothers, and then Mike and Argyle.
Well, there's got to be a
God.
big. There's going to be a big reunion. You already know that.
Oh,
that's
obviously,
gonna happen.
yeah.
They're gonna,
it's-
yeah.
It's
Well,
gonna be
who
good.
knows?
So yeah, I think just like how they've kind of tied all of these storylines together and just throughout the season, I think is really cool. I'm curious to see how they're gonna escape Russia. What's gonna happen there?
Or like what the
Um,
tie-in with, like, you know, I feel like, sure, they're saving Hopper, but
Mhm.
there's got to be like another tie-in. Like, my theory is that they're like, because they never answered the question of why Papa wanted to make all these kids,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah,
So
yeah.
my theory is kind of that he's selling them to Russia for like,
Interesting. I haven't
Well,
heard that.
wasn't that sort of alluded to in the show? I feel like
I
there
don't know, maybe I
was
missed
someone
it.
made an offhand comment about
it's
that.
so it was you know that it's another form of like government. That's why you have like that scene where like the army is coming in and attacking these
Yeah.
federal agents, like they're
Yeah.
all like under like, you know, the US or whatever,
they're
but
looking
it's
for
like
her, yeah.
it's a completely just different branch.
it's like a
that
war
is,
thing.
yeah.
So it is going to be interesting. I haven't heard that theory, but that is pretty interesting that Papa would be selling them off maybe just to the highest bidder, and that just so happens to be Russia. That's a pretty interesting.
I mean, how else are
Interesting
they gonna tie it in? You know, other than them just holding Hopper, like
Yeah.
that's not big enough of a story to
Right.
to keep him in.
The thing that threw me off though was it seems like this whole time like Russia opened the gate and was like
Yeah,
working on it. But then you find out
they're
one kind of opened the first gate after he just like died. He like
well,
Well, it was
No,
11
11
Thanos
opened it.
snapped him.
Yeah, it
11
was,
opened.
It was 11 that
she
opened
opened
the
the
gate,
first
and
gate.
she's the one who kind of like banished him there.
But did she open it or did it open because he died? Because
no,
that's
she like obliterated
she-
him
she
into
opened
into the upside down.
and
Yeah,
that just opened it.
well, it leads to
Yeah.
the question of did 11 create the upside down, or was it
That's what
already
I-
there,
yeah.
and like did she send him
Yeah,
into it?
Tim and I were slacking about that yesterday because Caleb and Alan did not finish the season until last night, and so that's a great question. I think my gut feeling is that the upside down was already there, but we do see this season that it was created and frozen in time when 11 did do that. So I don't know, but I feel like
He's like the architect of all the monsters, though. Like
Yeah.
he's the one that's
Yeah.
like creating all that. So like it leads me to believe that he is the one who, like, obviously he's the mastermind behind all of things that have been happening throughout all the seasons. But all of these creatures and everything that you're seeing, like those are all essentially brainchilds of him.
Yeah,
Mhm.
set to
And-
kill 11.
Right. And so it's one of those things where it's like, you know, like if 11 maybe would have just killed him and not sent him off with such extreme hatred or whatever, you know what I mean? Like, would this even happen? Right.
Yeah.
I think another thing too is like, did y'all feel any sort of sympathy for one at all at any moment in the last episode?
No. Well, at the end, no. I think a little bit like through it, I was like, oh my gosh, he's saving 11. This is how she
Yeah, that was
escaped.
nice,
And then
yeah.
you find out he just wanted to be strong and he was selfish and he wanted to be the only one. And he knew 11 was stronger than him, which is why he was trying to get on her good side. But that backfired on him.
the subtlety in his performance where he's got that calculated intensity where he's just
Mhm.
acting with his eyes and his face.
Yeah.
You don't see that much anymore from villains because everyone's so over the top, and he played that character was so fucking good
Yeah.
and refreshing. And then on top of that, you know, he's one and he's killing kids, and then he's Vecna and he's got all these prosthetics on, and the way he just brought this unique, terrifying, iconic new creature to life, I thought was unbelievably fantastic.
Yeah.
When did you know that he was the bad guy?
So we were talking about this.
Mm,
I realized he was the bad guy whenever they were playing chess in the lab. The way his eyes were, some of the words he was saying, and then just the whole like metaphor of chess, I was like, he's definitely vet now. He's
Oh,
vet now.
I didn't even think about the metaphor.
Yeah, so
Yeah.
I guess I didn't even catch that, and I think because of all the other storylines that were happening, I was just like, this guy's gonna like my theory was like this guy is the guy that helps 11 escape, and like that's pretty much gonna be the end of his like arc. Like I thought that's all it was, and so when the big reveal came, I was just like, oh fuck, like that's
Yeah.
that's some heavy stuff.
I feel like I was very back and forth the whole time because first time he's introduced in the season, it's pretty like he's kind of like the boss of the rainbow room,
Mhm.
and he's like calling her out for being late, and you're like, oh, this guy kind of sucks. But he like
I thought he
definitely
was just like a droid or something.
yeah, right. But I feel like he kind of like I was going back and forth on him the whole season. I was like, I think he's bad, but I'm not sure. But then by like towards the end, I was like, oh no, he's good. He's gonna help her. And then just like the turn, I think I realized when she took the thing out of his neck, and I was like, oh, she
Yeah.
just freed him from something, and now like he can easily do whatever he wants.
Yeah, my guard was up because he was being way too kind and way too just sweet and empathetic and caring to 11. And so whenever like I already knew whenever they were escaping or trying to escape that he was the bad guy. But once she took that out of his neck and shit just goes chaos, that was something to watch. One thing, I don't know if you guys noticed this, but whenever 11 comes into the room and all the kids are murdered and he and 11 start to have their little their fights, the rainbow in the room on one side is upside down and on 11's side is right side up. I just thought that was a cool like parallel and mirror image. So if you haven't seen that, it's a cool little Easter egg. That was neat.
I need to go back and rewatch that. Yeah, it's
A lot of hidden symbolism.
Tim, what were a few takeaways that really hit you this season?
I feel like they hit a bunch of different genres in this season. You know, they have that massive shootout that happened that I thought that was like it was filmed really well. It was super intense. Like
That one take?
That one take roaming
yeah.
camera was like really, really well done. And then like it goes into just like something funny right after that. And like whenever the dude pulls up in his van and he's just like delivers lines, it's like what the fuck
And he's
is
got his
going
song
on?
playing the whole
Right.
time.
It's just
so
like
good.
it's just like what is going on
Yeah.
here? And so like I like just like that mixture of genres, and like I feel that's I like to see that, and I want to see more of that to where people are just like mixing different things together, because like I feel a lot of people have that mindset of a lot of stories have been told already, nothing's really unique anymore. But I think whenever we see stuff like that, that's what makes it unique, is like blending these genres together and like kind of giving you all of these emotions like within one moment and stuff like that. So I really liked that. I think the Duffer Brothers are absolute geniuses. The last episode by far, like I think that's the only one they directed throughout the last season.
No, they directed several. They directed, I believe, the first two, and then they directed the episode 7. Sean Levy directed a couple, and then I can't remember the other guy's name, but he is the director of Predators, and so he directed 2 episodes. I think the Nina Project, and then episode 6.
Okay. I think the Duffer Brothers have like anytime that they were directing, like I feel like it's just more what's the best way to put it? Complete. Because like they're the ones who have the stories, right? They're the ones who have
it's their
created
baby.
these stories. So it's like I feel like anytime they're the ones who are directing it and stuff like that, you just get a more complete episode. I do like a lot of like the camera tricks that they were doing. There was this one specific scene when the kids are riding their bikes and the camera is like doing this full
That
like
was great.
Yeah, that was
overarching
cool.
like
Yeah, that
spin
was
and stuff
great.
like that. I was just like, they really are just taking it up a notch on every single level. And you just love to see that, because like it's not getting stale. They're always trying something new. They're always just trying to convey certain like either emotions or feelings through whether it be camera movement, dialogue, whatever. So I just really enjoyed that as a whole. And it's like, if there's a show that I can watch and not pull out my phone at some point,
Yeah,
and just be completely immersed in it, then they're doing something fucking great.
completely hypnotized.
Yeah.
The attention to detail. It's so rare for a show to be so cohesive with so many different tones, and just the way the Duffer Brothers paid attention to every single frame of this season, every single character, every subplot, every element. I just standing ovation and applause from me.
I'm very excited to see what comes from them after this. Since they've been living in this world of Stranger Things for a while, like I'm very excited to see once they're kind of like done with this, like what's next for them. Like is it going to be an original thing, or is it going to be
He's going pee.
It's like is it going to be an original thing, or are they going to be trying to like either remake some? I'm very curious to see, and it's just it's good to have some creators like that you get very excited about whenever their next project comes.
Love to see their take on a Nightmare on Elm Street. I think they have proven themselves time and time again, and I think they were also in talks to take on Stephen King's It before Andy Muschietti got a hold of the property and made his 2 films, but would love to see them continue in this type of genre and this type of world. I think they are just 2 incredible filmmakers and local to North Carolina.
Are they really?
From Durham.
Oh shit.
I knew they went to Chapman University.
Didn't know that. That's crazy.
For me, what worked for me this season, I think Sadie Sink stole the show. I think usually her acting is pretty one note for me. She's usually pretty brooding, and I do think she is a really good actor, but there was never anything about her character that I was gravitated towards. This season, she was my favorite character, hands down, with the way she was so like calm and facing death, and the way she wrote the fail safes, and the way she just her whole performance from top to bottom, it was just outstanding.
Yeah, the scene that stuck out to me with her was the one with her mom while she was outside hanging the clothes. That was a pretty heavy scene, and then the way that she just kind of like pulled herself together after that, and still was like, we need to get shit done. Like, it was just a great moment in acting.
One episode I want to touch on in particular was episode 4, directed by Sean Levy, Dear Billy. It rivals Breaking Bad's Ozymandias as my favorite episode of all time.
Whoa.
I was a wreck watching this episode. Just like the emotional crescendo that it leads up to from a brilliant performance from Sadie Sink, and what wasn't something that I have felt or have experienced or seen in a long, long time, and just thought everything about that episode was perfect and something that I will probably remember for years to come. And also, we didn't touch much on David Harbour, who plays Hopper, but I thought he was so good this season.
Well, he's not. The thing is, it's like I don't even question him at this point. Like, he's already like cemented to me the fact that he honestly reminds me, and like this is gonna be crazy to say, but he reminds me of like a Harrison Ford type.
He does.
Yeah.
And like the way that he carries himself, his whole mentality is like man's man sort of thing.
Sure.
And so like you think of like Indiana Jones, or really any character that Harrison Ford has played in his action roles. It's very similar to that, and that's just another one of those things where it's like, they have these like homages things that they're like inspiration that they're pulling from was very, Spielberg driven, horror driven, like all that sort of stuff. So it's like you just have like all of these characters that kind of like embody these other characters that we've seen in the best way possible, not just like they're copying these things, but every time that he's on screen, he just reminds me of like a Harrison Ford-esque type character. And I'm just like, I love it. Like, I never even have to question it. Harrison Ford's like my favorite actor of all time. So it's just one of those things that anytime that he pops up on screen, I'm just like, I'm fucking here for it. Like let's go.
He's so great. And then there's that monologue in the prison where he's just completely broken, and he's just facing his reality that he's this quote unquote curse. And that episode had me in tears because you can just relate to like his pain and his trauma, and just his performance blew me away. And then you also have the symbolism of Agent Orange tied into the images of the rainbow throughout this season, which I would just little things like that is what made this this season's so special to me. But I just had to tip my hat and applaud David Harbour's performance yet again, because he's always so solid, like you said. But that scene in particular just blew me away.
Yeah.
Also, just the scale, the horror, and the creativity are about as good as it gets for any show, and especially for this season. And this show continues to deliver on its best elements of stand-up and sheer moments and showmanship and emotional crescendos. And so I thought it took everything that made season 1 and elements of season 2 and season 3 so great, and it just multiplied it by 10. A perfect season for me.
It's top tier filmmaking, man. It's great.
Good gas.
So what did not work for us? Caleb, what did not work for you this season?
Will and Mike. I think I don't know if it's his character or if he's just truly given up on acting, but Mike he gave us nothing.
He's bad. He's pretty bad now.
I was like, which I saw something on like Twitter or something, or maybe it was like TikTok, and they were like, well, it's just like his character is like very nonchalant, doesn't really care anymore. I was like, is that his character, or is he just give it up? But I don't know.
It could have been the writing, because like they, to be honest, like with their characters, they were kind of like the weakest points.
Yeah,
if you had to find
sure.
one, and it was one of those things where it's like they're just going through like your standard like coming of age like teenage boy shit that supposedly everyone goes through. But it was one of those things where it's like, I get it, like these two friends are drifting apart because of a girl, like. Who the fuck cares at this point? Just like let's move on from this. I just thought that was probably the weakest point of the story, and I'm glad that they didn't stick on it for too long.
I wouldn't even say they didn't stick on it. It seems like they just forgot about it.
Well,
like,
I have a feeling like it's gonna come back around, because like in episode 7, like we didn't see them at all.
Yeah.
Like
They
you
did
didn't
not.
you didn't see them at all. So like they're gonna have a much bigger presence in episode 8 and 9.
Will they though?
Yeah, because
Do we know?
they're gonna get back to Indiana, and then like some shit's gonna happen. But they just decided that like we didn't need to see anything, and I thought that was like a very good call, because like that was like the one portion outside of like the big like shootout that happened, and you see like some of the things that are happening there. Outside of that, there was nothing important in California.
Oh yeah, nothing.
There was nothing important going on.
11
there.
got kidnapped. That was it.
Yeah, she got bullied pretty bad.
Yeah.
Yeah, I like their whole thing with like going to Susie to hack Nina. That I don't understand, because we are now seeing that 11 needs to be like built back up, and she needs to be at Nina, and it needs to happen, and they're gonna try and like stop it. It sounds like, and like get her back. Which like I feel like at first they were like, oh no, this is a bad thing. Like it's portrayed as a bad thing, but we now see like. We see the villain. We see that she doesn't have her powers, and she needs her powers back.
It's like she's back now, so by the time they get to her,
Yeah.
they're going to be just
They missed.
saving her.
Yeah, I don't know.
Or like getting her out. Not saving, but like getting her out.
Yeah.
So she can get to Hawkins somehow.
Yeah,
And then,
like that whole.
like how are they
story-
going to get her to Hawkins? I don't know. But
If there's one thing that I don't understand about this season, it's where is that storyline going? Which maybe that's a good thing. It'll be a surprise.
Yeah, I think what didn't work for me was Mike, and it's crazy, because season 1, he was the leader of this group of friends.
Yeah.
He was so lovable. He took Elle under his wing. He was so empathetic and warm and caring and cared for Will. And the further along we've gotten in this show, the more he's just like very loud and obnoxious and not likable. And he has just slipped to like the bottom of the cast, the ensemble for me. And also Joyce. Like Joyce was a very strong lead in the first season, and she just got a little more like award show Winona Ryder, off her pills, wacky, the further along we've gotten. And so like that's what didn't work for me. Like sometimes the tone got a little too wacky and whimsy, and some of the subplots I wasn't as invested in. But once we wrapped up episode 7 and everything was pulled back, I was like, okay, I appreciate the ones I wasn't as invested in so much more now.
Also love how they have no idea that she's in Russia.
Yeah.
Like no one knows she's there. They're like chasing Susie and trying to hack into
classic
Nina.
80s mom
right?
to just go off to Russia.
And
like your mom is about to
that
die,
just
by the
reminds
way.
me. That reminds me of the dinner scene where she's talking about they have to go to Alaska, and Murray's like, "You guys like risotto?" And then Jonathan's high as fuck, and he's just like, "Yeah." And they're just. I just thought that was a really like awesome,
That's
funny
the olive
scene.
oil. That's one.
Alan, what did not work for you this season?
For me, it was, Mike. He just annoys me anytime he comes on screen. And for me, I don't know what it is. I brought this up earlier. The look of it just feels different than other seasons, not in a great way. And I can't put my finger on it. A lot of it's like lighting. It's not as like picture perfect, I guess I should say. Like the lighting isn't perfect like other seasons were. I don't know if that's the main thing. Some of the sound, I love the sound design overall. A lot of match cuts, a lot of sound bridging.
They were
Sometimes it was
over the
just too. It was just
They were
too
very
much for me.
heavy-handed.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And maybe they were paying like homage to like the 80s when everything was a little over the top. That might be it. I don't know. Benefit of the doubt. But that was something that didn't really work for me. And yeah, those were the main two, three things. Yeah, for me.
I thought that I honestly didn't have a problem with the look of it. The only thing is that there were a lot of scenes where the color between shots didn't match very well.
Yeah.
And then the night scenes were way too dark.
That's
you could
becoming
not
more
see
common.
a thing.
That's becoming
The nights I didn't
more
really have an
common
issue with,
where scenes don't match up color wise. That's becoming something that I'm noticing in like a few things, and it's like I can't say that I make my stuff match like all the time or whatever, and I think that's just like some of the approaches that we're seeing to filmmaking now. But as long as I'm engrossed in the story, you know,
Right.
I'm sucked in, like I don't really like notice those big technical things. I will say that it looked more digital this time around.
Yeah.
Like the other ones definitely had kind of like that old school grain going on, and I think it still does, but like there was a few shots where it just looked really crisp and at moments, and I was just like, I like that it looks crisp and it looks great, but I was just like, it didn't really match, like we were saying, like certain other scenes and stuff like that. So I want to say, like, I don't know, getting into technical stuff, don't know what cameras they were using, whatever, but like there was just certain moments that just looked like it was very, very digital.
I knew they shot at least the first season on red,
Mm-hmm.
and I think the second season.
Yeah,
I
I
know
think
that much.
like look-wise stuff, something else that didn't work. That last scene with
Oh, they
with
switched
one
with
They
one.
switched to the Alexa LF
Did they?
for season 4.
the Alexa Littlefield.
I'll touch on that real quick. That was also one like nitpick I had was whenever she banishes him to the upside down, he's very like Emperor Palpatine flying lightning.
it was
and then
rough.
like it's just a very PlayStation reveal, and then it's lightning flash and he's Vecna. I
Yeah.
thought that could have been handled better, but that's just a nitpick.
I think with that though, like that just hits on the time that they're, you know, paying
Sure.
homage to, because like you saw a lot of that in the 80s and like even the early 90s and stuff like that. You know, that was a lot of like visualizations that you saw. So like even though it looked cheap, it felt very purposeful because they are paying homage to so many things, right? So it's like having those sort of things happening. I was just kind of like, even though I'm not a great fan of like that sort of like look, like I know why you're doing it, and like I know like it's just the inspiration that you have.
That's fair. Was there anything else that didn't work for you this season?
No, I mean that's pretty much it. Like there were some weaker stuff, and I wish that they wouldn't have dragged out Hopper's storyline. I kind of wish that they would, like, you know, I very much liked him as a character and all of the other ones, and I still do like him as a character, but I feel like with his story, like they really dragged it on.
Yeah.
Because like it felt like his storyline was the course of like a day or two, you know what I mean? But like they dragged out through the entire season to where you're just getting little snippets here and there. So like I kind of wish maybe like we didn't see Hopper for majority of the first half of the season, and then you get one like Hopper specific episode. You get all that knocked out of the way, and then like, you're kind of like moved on to it, because I feel like they just really lingered on his thing.
Mm-hmm.
That's
for
what
a
I'm
while.
saying. Something has to be tying in there for them to be spending that much time on it.
Give me your final thoughts on this season, and if you can rank it on a scale of 1 to 10.
Ooh, I mean, yeah, I love this season. I'm really excited for the last 2 episodes. I will be bummed when the show ends. Yeah, I'm really curious to see where they're gonna go with the trauma stuff and like see why Vecna's targeting who he's targeting and how they defeat him. Because this was the one I was like, I have no clue how they're gonna beat this guy.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm curious to see how that's gonna wrap up. If I were to rate it right now, I would give it. I would want to rate it like a 9.5, but because I've just finished it, I'm gonna say like an 8. Just like be more realistic. It might be an 8. We'll see how I feel in a month or a month after the last part comes out. But I would give it like a solid. I really want to rate it high, but I'll say 8 right now.
What are your predictions for the final 2 episodes?
Sheesh. I feel like Hopper and Joyce and them are gonna do something that shouldn't work, but they somehow tie it in, and they have a big role in stopping it. Yeah, I honestly have no clue. I'm very curious to see if they can convince the town that this is going on and if they play any role in it. I honestly have no clue where this is going to go. I feel like there's so many loose ends. Like they did tie stuff up and like we understand where it's going, but I feel like there's still so much that is going to happen and I have no clue where it's going to go, but I'm very excited for it.
All right, Alan, give me your final thoughts on Stranger Things Season 4, Volume 1.
I loved it. It was fantastic up until this point, and I can't wait for the final 2 episodes. Just see every little detail, hopefully wrapped up, and won't leave us wanting more because this will be the end of it. Sad to see it go, and even last night, there's like 20 minutes left in the last episode, and we were like, oh, I don't want this to end. This happened too fast.
Mm-hmm.
So definitely a little bit of sadness for that. But yeah, overall, fantastic.
Tim, what are your thoughts?
I think it's great. I honestly can't say as much greatness about this. Like I think the last time that I really like talked about a show like this was probably maybe like season 1 of Stranger Things or a few other shows, but it's fantastic. It's great storytelling. It looks great. I really like a lot of the things that I've said through here are like serious like nitpicks. Like I really have to like dig for these things to say that they're bad. I think it's one of the greatest shows that I've seen in a very long time. I feel the same way. I don't want it to end, but it does bring on excitement. Like I said earlier, like I'm excited to see what these guys are going to do next, because like if they can have me interested in something like this, and essentially I binged that fucking show in a day. Like I had a
lot of hours.
I had a very productive day earlier in the day. This like I worked out, went to Costco, like sat by the pool for a bit, all that sort of stuff. But then like I sat down and watched it until 1 or 2 in the morning and finished it. And I was just like, I don't understand how I was able to do this, but I was just fully sucked into it. And so, very few shows can have me essentially like put that much time into it and just be like, I can't stop. And so I'm just excited to see what they're going to bring next after this is all done. Because, I think these guys are very special and they're going to be here for a while.
Okay, well, I guess that leads us to your ranking of this season, Alan, and your final predictions for the final 2 episodes.
Based on all 4 seasons, I'm gonna have to give it probably, I'm gonna say 8.8 rating. And predictions, like I said, the Russia thing, I think, they haven't given us a reason for why Papa was making all these, I don't know what you call them, kids, make them strong and whatever. But I think he's potentially, selling them to Russia, and that's how that's going to tie in, Hopper and all that's going on there. I mean, they're going to defeat Vecna, I think, obviously, wrap that up. I mean, my prediction with that was when they were, the first episode, I think it was, when they were playing D&D
Mhm.
And they paralleled it with a basketball game, and they all teamed up and beat Vecna. I was
A
like,
little
oh.
foreshadowing going on
I was
there.
like, that's just foreshadowing of them. I think that's gonna happen. I feel like somebody's gonna die.
I think
They
there's
have
I think
to.
there's going to be a few. I think
few?
I
Yeah,
think there's
I
going to
agree.
be a few people that go and because it is the end, it's going to have a very weighted
Yes.
ending.
It has.
and
I hope so.
I think
I
it's
hope
going
so.
to.
If they take that direction and they kill off some lovable characters, that will just like cement it as maybe my favorite season of all time.
Yeah.
So Tim, what are your predictions for the final 2 episodes and your overall ranking?
Ranking would be a 9. Predictions, I don't necessarily have anything big. I think military is going to have a big presence. I think Hopper is going to die. I think Hopper is going to be probably one of those, if not like the biggest death that's happening, especially with how committed he is and him saying that he still has some in the tank to what he can.
Oh yeah,
he can do. I feel
There's
like
a lot
that,
of foreshadowing.
I was about to say, I feel like that was a big one. I feel like he is actually going to sacrifice him in
Mhm.
some sort of way. Like they can't just like do a little fake at the end of season 3 and then be like, you know what, he's fine. Like I feel like he is for sure gonna die.
Yeah.
But he's going to go out in the most spectacular way possible. And I think that's going to happen. I have a feeling that maybe some of the older teenagers are going to die. As far as like the core crew, I think the only person that makes sense if they're going to die is going to be Will. Yeah.
Hmm.
As of right now, the only one that makes sense is for him to die just because of the like they set him up in the first season. Like I thought he was going to be way more of a main character than what he was, right?
Yeah.
Like they had him, the one who was like experiencing all of the trauma along with 11 and stuff like that.
He almost had like a
through.
little bit of a sixth sense thing going on,
Yeah.
and that kind of trailed off.
Yeah, so like I have a feeling like especially since they're tying stuff up with the first season, like a lot of the questions, I have a feeling that some of these things that we've kind of just forgot about with Will and they weren't really like showcasing a lot of it in season 2 and 3. I have a feeling that we're going to that's going to come back full circle. And most likely, what's his brother's name? Jonathan?
Jonathan.
Yeah, he's going to die. He's fucking dead.
You don't think 11's gonna die?
No,
I feel like that's a given to me.
I don't think so.
That she
and
died.
see, that's the thing. Like, it seems like they want you to think that, so I'm not going.
Not this season, anyways. I don't think he'll die. She'll die this season.
But the way that they minimized Jonathan's character in season 4, I think for sure they're prepping him for an exit, especially bringing back that romance.
Steve's gonna kill him.
Not Steve's gonna kill him, but it's more of those things. Like I feel like they're already writing him off. He had like a very minimal presence in this part 1.
Then I mean, like, what's the point of killing him then?
It's one of those things where like I have a feeling that like he's just like they were just like, all right, you're done.
I just feel like I wouldn't feel anything if he died. I'd be like, oh man, there goes Jonathan. But I do think they need to kill off some characters because there's a ton of them, which they're balancing all of them tremendously. But in order for it to go to that next level, I think there needs to be some hard, terrible deaths that need to happen. And I think my prediction is Eddie's going to go. I think there's been a lot of foreshadowing with how he runs away from his problems and runs away from, his fear. And I think that is leading up to, and we've seen a little bit of
Him confronting his fear, and that'll end up getting
we-
him killed.
we've seen a little bit of him playing guitar in the trailers. And so I think that would suck if he went because he's such a lovable fan favorite already. But I think that would be incredibly impactful. Also, I think if Steve died for the group, would be Steve's my favorite
that would
character.
be-
I
Steve's a
love
real
Steve.
one. Steve's a real one.
Steve's
He's
so
great.
good.
Yeah.
But for me, I initially ranked this season like an 8.5. I've begun to rewatch it, and just all the little details, all the callbacks, everything that they brought all the way back, to season 1 into now season 4 is just really rare and incredible to pull off and write. I don't know how you do that. I don't know how long that takes to just, leave no stone left unturned. And really, really fantastic, rare, and I think it's completely worthy of the praise it's getting. So I'm going to give it a 9.5 this season. And I'm incredibly excited to see where the Duffer Brothers take it for the final 2 episodes, and where they take, which they have confirmed, season 5 is going to be the final season, which is a little bit bittersweet.
Wait a minute.
I
They're
don't-
doing
I-
season 5?
I thought this was the last season.
Yeah.
Yeah, they're doing one more season.
That kind of
What?
makes me mad.
Yeah. What?
Yeah, they're doing one more.
Well,
So then it's not going to be wrapped up.
yeah,
but they're wrapping
I
up-
thought for sure that
I
this
did
was the
too.
last
I thought
season.
season 4 was it, but from what I've heard from everybody and what I've seen, there's one more season.
What could they possibly do? No.
See, that's why I think
Now
Vecna
I'm-
is gonna.
Now I'm mad.
Well, yes, but don't be mad yet. I want to see this article where they're saying that they're gonna do another one, because essentially like there's a lot of speculation, but like this feels like the ending. Plus they said that this was like the Duffer Brothers, like I can quote them. They said that this was their like Game of Thrones season, to where like they're
I
gonna
thought
end
that
it off.
too.
So like I'm very curious, just why are you doing all of these things
I hope
in
we're not
this
going to be
season?
mad after watching these 2
Yeah.
episodes and then leaving some stupid holes out or something to do another episode, another season.
You know, at the end of season 3, I was like, okay, good, they're wrapping it up. I like this series. I really enjoy a lot of elements of it, but you know, I'm cool with them wrapping it up.
Dude, yeah,
But
if
now-
they're ending it, it's on like the highest note that it could
Yeah,
possibly end on.
But now I'm like, no, like I'm okay if you continue this story for years to come. But yeah, that concludes our show today. If you are listening, we greatly appreciate your time, and be sure to leave all of your thoughts and comments down below and let us know what you thought about Stranger Things season 4. As always, thanks for listening, and we'll catch you next time.
Peace.